Hey guys, welcome to Something Like Therapy. For today's episode, Derick and I will be discussing imposter syndrome. Join us as we share some of the signs and symptoms that might help us unmask this nasty little liar in our lives that might be holding us back from the things that we truly want to do. So grab a pen and paper, take some notes if you want, and hope you guys enjoy. Hello guys and welcome back. We have a great episode for you guys today. We have a lot to share, a lot to talk about. So yeah, we're excited for this one. I think this one, we kind of had something else on the schedule, but after the last episode, this one kind of just seemed like it was pretty fitting.
Yeah, we had something came up and we were talking. I don't know why it came up, and then we were like, "Oh, we should do that one." And we're just like, "Oh, okay."
Because
we're talking about some conversation.
Well, little backstory to why we decided to do this one. We're gonna jump right into it. After last episode, after we finished recording, I turned around and I told Derick, I was like, you know what? I think the next episode you're just gonna do it by yourself. Like, I'm really struggling. I'm struggling with comparison. I'm struggling with like speaking. I don't know why I just got really down on myself. There's a lot of different reasons why I think I'm struggling when it comes to sharing and speaking and but I just was like really hit like this really like self-doubting type of like point where I really just kind of I didn't want to give up. I definitely don't want to give up, but I don't know. I kind of felt like I need to just kind of step back and gather myself, like gather my thoughts. And so,
and I thought you were like jokingly said that because maybe you were just like, oh, so much goes into like doing the recording and editing and stuff that you were just like, you know what, next time you just do it. And I was like, oh, like I kind of just laughed it off.
I think it's just at a very like nonchalant,
yeah, I didn't know you were actually serious.
Deep down inside, I was freaking crying. And so later on that day, I did a story on my personal Instagram, and I just talked about, how much I'm struggling with comparison. And honestly, a good friend of mine messaged me, and she was like, the imposter syndrome is real. Like, it's something that so many of us struggle. And I was like, oh, it's true, So we decided to dedicate this episode to the infamous imposter syndrome, because I think a lot of us do struggle with that. And I think there's a lot of different ways that, as we were reading down the list of these signs and symptoms, I was like, man, there's a lot of different ways that this can show up, so yeah.
And I think it's sort of like how we did and it's going to be the same sort of format for this episode too, with how we did people pleasing.
Yeah.
Kind of giving you the top, signs, symptoms, where when we went through them, it was sort of like some of them, for the most part, like I could almost agree with like each one in a way. Some of them more than others, but I think that's kind of everyone. Like everyone suffers, or everyone can be a people pleaser sometimes. Everyone can feel like they have imposter syndrome sometimes. And I guess this is the whole point of like that article, or kind of going through these. It's just like when you realize like out of the 10, 8 of them really hit
right.
the head, the nail on the head there. Or however that saying goes, then you'll realize like, oh shoot, I kind of maybe do need to address this within myself,
right.
So it's kind of good to go through those things.
And I just want to say this, like, we're not in the business of like slapping labels on people. We're like, oh, you're a people pleaser. Now. You're a people pleaser. You're a freaking imposter, or you're a whatever. Like, it's more, I think, of just like, one, you're not alone in the things that you're experiencing and the struggles that you're dealing with or facing. And two, it's like, it's not necessarily that we're putting a label on things, but it's so like, so you have some knowledge of you know, like, this is what I'm struggling with. Like, so you have a name for it.
Yeah, because you do a lot more of, deep dive into research on these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Where you bring it to my attention and, like, maybe I've thought about it, but I didn't have a name for it, or I didn't think about it. So I think it's good, and that's kind of, the reasoning behind why we choose some of the episodes we do is to, like you said, bring it to light for some of you guys that maybe are just like, yeah, I've kind of heard about that, but I never really took the time. And, we're giving you a very brief, just hitting the surface of some of these things. So again, if you find interest or if you feel like, hey, that kind of really speaks to me, do the research. Like, we spend so much time freaking looking at TikTok videos and playing games or whatever. Just do a little bit of research for, like, self-care and self-help, and it'll, it really does open your mind and open your eyes to a lot of things that you may be feeling or going through and you just didn't realize it. So
if you listen to our last episode, use social media for your own benefit,
right.
Do some digging into, like, why you are the way you are,
Well, and it's funny, the whole algorithm thing, like, you like a couple of videos on TikTok on, like, like mental health, or, like, because wasn't it just recent, the whole mental health awareness, or am I tripping?
I mean,
it was 1 month, I don't know. So it was something about mental health awareness, and, so you like the video, whatever, and then, like, because that algorithm hits that you liked it, they keep sending me, different things. But it's kind of cool because then it's just like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. And then it kind of, like, turns me on to some other, like, podcasts that we came across that are, like, really good, like, sort of very similar, if not the same, couples talking or just friends talking. But it's just such really useful information that you would probably never think to, like, oh, I'm going to go wake up in the morning, like, I'm going to go research imposter syndrome.
I think something, like you said, sometimes we just don't have, the wording or the language to express what we're feeling. We don't even know what to call it. I was talking to a friend a couple weeks ago, and she was sharing something that she was experiencing with her kids, and I'm like, oh, that's disassociation. And she was like, oh my God, I never knew what it was. I didn't know what it was called, but I knew what I was experiencing. I just didn't know how to identify it, so. And
then it helps a lot too, especially with parenting, where you kind of think, like, oh, I'm the only one that has these thoughts, or I'm the only one that gets annoyed with this, or whatever. Or just not even in parenting, with just relationships, coworkers, blah, blah, blah. But then you, like, do just a little deep dive on, on whatever it is you're feeling or experiencing, and you realize, like, it's usually a common thing. And a lot of people, I wouldn't even say suffer, but just experience that or go through it. So it really helps that you don't think, like, I'm an isolated weirdo. So we definitely try to choose things that, one, we experience or we have gone through, so that we can kind of give our insight on, or things that maybe Jessica or I have kind of, read some articles on or heard about that we find interesting and want to give that information to you guys. So but the hard-hitting topics that we we choose, that's kind of the progression of how we come up with them, and we'll begin to do some really much more important things, like the Dodgers' chances for World Series this year in August.
I definitely won't be here for that.
In August, we might do, like, a fantasy football, some of the really deep stuff to get people thinking.
Yeah. Follow Derick for
I'll start
his new podcast
called Just Derick.
Just Derick. I will not be joining that. All right, so I just want to give a little...
let me guess, a trigger warning?
No.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it, because you're like, I want to give a trigger warning. It was the last episode. I'm like, we kind of do trigger warnings for everything.
I think I've given, like, 2 trigger warnings.
Each episode.
Wow. Hey, guys, I wonder why I'm so fucking insecure about...
Oh, Lord.
I just won't say anything. No, a definition of what imposter syndrome is, okay?
Okay.
Some people might not know what that is, okay? So, what is imposter syndrome? In psychological terms, imposter syndrome is a cognitive distortion that prevents you from internalizing any sense of success or confidence you can gain from achieving something through personal efforts. Imposter syndrome is associated with unpleasant feelings such as insecurity, fear, and self-doubt, which can negatively impact your professional and academic performance. And just on an everyday, like,
Yeah.
it really can. So, right, that's the definition, okay? Just in case so maybe listeners don't know exactly what imposter syndrome is. So number 1, so these are 10 signs and symptoms of imposter syndrome, all right? Fear of being found out. The fear of being found out is one of the most main signs of imposter syndrome. When you're feeling like an imposter, you probably have a deep fear of being discovered as inadequate, incompetent, or unfit for a certain role.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that comes up to mind when someone like talks about imposter syndrome. And I think you kind of mentioned it earlier where this can really pertain to your career, like your job, or it can just pertain to like the normal everyday titles of husband or dad or whatever, friend, where you're going to be found out that maybe you're not as good as they expect or good as you say or they say or whatever. But I mean, the first thing that comes to mind with this one is just career-wise when I was doing a job where, I went to school for, I got, certification for, I got a license. And it was a lot of, you like anything else, you learn on the job, you learn through experience. So there was never, I mean, we had trainings and things, but there was never really any like, here's the manual on how you do this job. It was up to you to just like, okay, you're educated, you're licensed, you should be able to go and perform. And I did for almost a decade doing it. But throughout that whole time, and I had conversations with you about it where I was like, sometimes I feel like I don't know, like that company or that, because I would go to different job sites. They're looking to me like, okay, good, Derick's here. He has all the answers. Like, they help us. And it's sort of like, okay, I do know some stuff, but I always felt like, are other people, like the other people in my company, are they better than me? Like, do they know more? Like, I always felt like I was winging things. Which, and even then, because throughout that time that I was there, I would get praised a lot by the places I would go to. I would get praised a lot from, my boss.
So happens to you a lot, yeah. Huh? You get praised a lot.
Well, you would think that with that, though, that I would get some confidence. Like, okay, right. I am good at this, but it just never went away. Like, I always was just like, one of these days, someone's going to come and ask me something, and they're going to be like, no, that's totally wrong. What are you talking about? And I'm going to be like, take off running, and then like, you just hear me skid out, like, because, dude, I wouldn't know what, I'd feel so embarrassed and dumb. But I had that kind of nervous, anxious feeling every time I'd go to work. And it sucks. It's a horrible feeling,
Yeah. The way that I see it in my life is with parenting. Having big. 2 special needs kids,
that was my next example of being like a special needs parent. They look to us like, oh, so not only you're like,
or some kind of superhuman.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like you know everything that a parent already does or knows, and then you're above that too.
It's like you're above it. No. And I get once in a while I'll post things in regards to our kids and the things that we're going through, the struggles that we're facing, and I try to be very transparent, but I always get a lot of very positive comments, and messages, to how wonderful parents we are. And I just like, in my head, I'm like, they have no idea like how freaking scared I am of parenting 2 special needs kids. They have no idea how much like I feel like I fail them like daily, like they have no clue, and it makes me feel like just like a fraud, because then honestly it stops me from posting a lot of things in regards to our children, because like I feel like I'm not being real, or even if I am being real, like people might think that I'm like searching for some kind of compliment, or I don't know, and I go down this whole rabbit hole of just like shame and just doubting myself. And I think, I don't know, have I struggled with imposter syndrome in the past in other areas of my life? Probably. I just didn't really know. Being a makeup artist, that's something that I did also recognize. Like, I used to get a lot of compliments on the work that I would do, and I'm like, no, it's not good enough, like, and so But the parenting part, I think that's my area where I just struggle, and I feel like, and we've talked about this before, like, I feel like I'm even just like pretending to just be an adult. Like, I still feel like, I don't know, there's certain situations where I feel like I need a parent, So it's like, how can I be parenting, my own kids when I feel like I still need to be parented, so.
And that comes up too, I think I've told you, like, when you realize that you're the age your parents were when they had you, or like, I think back to, like, as a teenager, how old my parents were, whatever the case, but you then realize, like, wait a minute, they were this age, or like they were younger than what I am right now when I was, a little kid. And I remember looking to, like, my dad, and like, he's a man, like, he's an adult, and he does this and he does that, but he was younger than me. And it's like, I look at myself and I'm like, dude, is there like a gap in these generations? Because I don't feel like I'm at an adult level. I mean, I do, but majority of the day I'm just like, I'm just a kid, someone's gonna figure out I'm just a kid still, I'm not really an adult. Like, when we go to, like, parent teacher conferences or IEP meetings and stuff, they're gonna be like, so is your dad gonna get here, are you like the older brother, and like you're just here to, like, help out? But parenting, that comes up a lot for sure.
So it segues really well into the next point. Persistent feelings of inadequacy. Dealing with imposter syndrome means you feel unreasonably incapable in your day-to-day roles and responsibilities. No matter how much you accomplish, at the end of the day, you feel as if you're somehow tricking everybody into believing you're valuable and capable. Like, totally.
Yeah.
Dude. Exactly. Like, even just as a parent, I don't know, like, sometimes, okay, so having special needs kids, like, we go through a lot of IEP meetings. So they're individual education plans. So
you mean that's what they stand for?
Yes,
oh my gosh.
The more you know. So anyway, so you go to these meetings, and there's been times, like, where they'll ask me, like, what is your child's strengths? And I seriously am like, and I feel horrible, like, saying this, but I'm like, sometimes I don't know what to say, because I'm like, I don't know. I remember one time they were, like, asking for our middle child, like, what are his strengths? I'm like, swinging. He loves swinging. Like, I don't know.
He plays
like,
with his hair good.
He's really good at, like, flicking his hair really fast. Like, and it's like
spinning.
And then, the teacher was like, well, what I see his strengths are, and I seriously felt so stupid. I'm like, but they see another side of him, like, they really do.
Yeah.
For me, like, Jude, like, his strengths are just his kindness, his, like, I don't, and that's where I get kind of, confused sometimes, because I'm like, are they talking about his educate, like, like, the academic part of strengths, like, because I don't, Jude's a completely different child, but anyhow,
but also too, really quick, like you said, or we had talked about before, especially during the COVID time when they would send home or send packets, and he would have to do them at home, and everyone went through it. But what we were saying is that, like, at least with our kids or our special needs kids, they really look at the home as, like, this is not my workplace. I go to this other place and I have to do these things, and they like, here, Jude, do this. And he does it because he's just like, well, the faster I do this, the faster I can get home and have some snacks. So let's just get this over with. So for them to ask, like, what are his, academic strengths here? Like, I don't know. And then you feel guilty because, like, should we be doing academic stuff at home? Like, should we be doing, like, writing and reading with him? And it's like, oh Lord, now I feel even more inadequate as a parent that's taking care of him.
Exactly. And again, like, that's where the whole you feel like a fraud or you're going to be found out, because it's like, you have these teachers asking me these questions, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but once he's home from school, and maybe I should, I don't know, but he does not, anything that's in regards to, I can't even say the word school, because he gets all,
it's more like,
gets all angry, so
something constructive. Like, the only thing really is, like, puzzles.
He loves puzzles.
Like, that's, something a project that he takes on. Other than that, we don't really like to force him, because we already know he has a hard time focusing and doing what he needs to do at school. Like, we want to make home and his room like a place where he can just come and unwind.
It's a decompress.
Because he already, like, stressed. He's overstimulated. by just having to go on the bus and talk to the bus driver and do all that. Like, we want to make it as calm as possible. But.
Yeah, and again, just to bring it back to what we're talking about, it's just you do tend to kind of feel like you're inadequate just because you feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm not, I'm not being everything that my child needs me to be, so then you start to just everything that you are doing for them, it just doesn't it doesn't mean anything, or it just isn't quite enough.
And that's really quick before for it's not just we're saying that as parents of special needs kids, because again, you guys know our oldest does not have special needs, and
I'm just kidding.
Wow, he's gonna.
I love you,
he's gonna
son.
hit you up on that. But I mean, we still felt that.
The reason I say that is because every child has a special need.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
you still feel that even with kids that are, quote unquote normal or fully functioning. You can still feel inadequacy. Like, I'm not doing enough. My parents did more, and blah blah blah. So it just, again, maybe that's a whole other episode. But just don't be too down on yourself.
And I think, and that's why I said that, like, because I feel like our oldest required his own special kind of attention, and
every kid does.
Yeah, maybe he's not technically diagnosed, some form of disability, but it's like he's had his own struggles,
It's called having a personality. Everyone is their own way.
And every single one of them is special. That's what I meant to say, okay? So number 3, avoiding activities that test your knowledge and skills. Can I answer this one real quick? That is me. I have been trying to freaking graduate for 5 years now?
Yeah, I guess from when you first started
5 years.
program.
I have avoided. There's times where there's like, have you done your homework? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to. It is such a fear for me. Anything that challenges me or makes me feel uncomfortable really makes me question myself. Like, it's real. Like, the fear is real. And that's why I said, like, last week with that episode, because I felt so challenged, or I kind of felt dumb. Because I noticed, so the reason why I was struggling with that episode was because, number one, this is really putting me out there to communicate, not just with you, but with, I'm exposing myself to other people now, so, and I know that there's a lot of things that I want to say, but I don't feel confident to say yet, or, I just want to be very careful with what I say. So that makes it very difficult for me. So what I noticed is that when I listened to the episode again, I was jumping from one thing to another, and there was a couple times where I didn't even make my point because I was kind of beating around the bush, like I was just like, I was trying to find a way to say it, but then I just went on this rant and like, I didn't even say it. I'm really upset that I didn't make my point. So, so, that's one of the reasons why I'm really struggling with that, is because I feel like I don't have enough confidence to just be me. Like, I'm struggling with just showing up just as I am and sharing and saying what I really feel and what I really believe. I'm being tested in that way to just show up, say what I think, regardless of what people are going to say, or, maybe some people will stop being friends with me. I don't know, I don't really have a lot of friends anymore, but, so that really is one of my struggles, and it challenges me. So as soon as I feel challenged, I tend to kind of just pull back, so
yeah, then that's good. Then you're using this podcast for what we kind of intended.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's total therapy.
So you might even say you're getting something like therapy.
Something like it. Yeah.
You like that?
But it's so yeah, that's why I kind of was like, I could tell that I was starting to avoid showing up, and same reason I avoided going to school. Same reason I avoid, when I really struggle with anxiety, I would avoid social situations because it would force me to now talk, and so a lot of the times when I'm talking and I get overwhelmed, I start to trip over my words, or like or I kind of get a little like scrambled brain and I start talking about one thing and then before you know it, I'm talking about something completely different. So I started to notice that on here and I'm like, part of me wants to just not do this anymore, because it's uncomfortable for me, and then now I feel like, again, like I talked about it on my story Instagram, like I'm sitting next to someone that is so put together and just knows how to explain themselves so well, and I mean, I don't say like you use these crazy big words, but
wait, when's this person getting here? Because I don't know.
People like, and that's like are saying like I'm not sitting here like trying to compare myself to you, but you've always gotten like recognized and praised for just being you, which is, that's why I'm like, the fact that you struggle with imposter syndrome as well is just kind of mind blowing to me, because I'm just like, you literally walk into a room and people are just like, oh my God, Derick, like you just, you always have something great to say. And I'm just like, that's so fucking annoying. But I'm like, but I mean, it's not, and obviously I'm not like jealous or anything, but it makes me feel like I'm not good enough, but that's not your fault. Like, I'm not, I'm not sitting here saying like, don't talk, because you can make me look stupid. Like, it's not like that. Of course not. I mean, I'm obviously we're together and I married you because I appreciate and admire you, but it does make me kind of question myself. But that's not your responsibility to make me feel better. I need to work at that on my own. But
it goes with what we were saying, that everyone, no one ever looks at themselves how other people look at them. It's just sort of the same thing that you hear your voice recorded and you're just like, oh, I hate the way I sound. And, someone was telling us the other day, like, oh, this is your podcast. Like, you guys sound good. Like, you have a voice to do a podcast. And it's like, no, that's the one thing that I was worried about. Like, no one's going to really want to hear my voice for episode over and over and over. So, yeah. And, everyone always thinks that it's just like, no, I'm not that good, or I'm not that funny, or I'm not that smart, or whatever. But also, too, what I want to say is I'm glad that you are sticking with this. And I think I told you that, because that's the best way to get over fears, is to just throw yourself in it. I was literally listening to a TikTok from Bill Hader, the guy from Saturday Night Live and other movies. And he's like, yeah, I've suffered from debilitating anxiety my whole life. And I'm a freaking actor that has to go perform in front of people. Like, that's the worst job I could have done. But I love it so much that I just said, like, F that, I'm doing it. Like, I'm not going to let this not let me do what I love. So, not that, I mean, I don't know, maybe you do love podcasting, but you love speaking, I would imagine. You want to be able to talk. So,
I love sharing.
Just doing it. Yeah,
I love sharing.
So,
yeah, and I think it's just, and that's one thing that I learned from having also debilitating anxiety. Was exposure therapy honestly saved my life.
Exposure therapy, I couldn't think of the phrase.
Because if I would have given into the anxiety and just completely shut myself out, I don't want to be like dramatic and say I probably wouldn't be here, but I definitely wouldn't be here in this space. I wouldn't be sharing and I wouldn't be talking. Yeah, so one of the things, I didn't share the point, but I kind of want to share this because I feel like this is one more thing that we can tag on to this is people with imposter syndrome often avoid putting themselves in situations that test their abilities because they're afraid of being discovered as fake or unable to meet other people's expectations. The expectations part, that part is so true. I think, because if you already feel like you're kind of a fake or whatever, or fraud, then you feel like, okay, so as an example really quick. So when I feel overwhelmed, like if I feel like I need to compete with you in any way, like what you said is just sounded just on point and amazing. So, and I don't ever really honestly do this, but if I feel like I need to make a point, how can I say this? So let's say I said something, but you explained it better, like more clearly. Then now I feel like I need to like either kind of top that or like, okay, the next time you need to say it better. So now I find myself performing, like where I'm just like, now I need to be this person that I'm really not, you know.
Yeah.
So I need to sound so, you know, educated and
Use
I don't know,
multi-syllable words.
yeah, using all these crazy big words, you know. So then I find myself that I'm performing because you know, either place that expectation on myself, or, you know, maybe other people have expectations of me, which I really don't know. But
And that's good too, because I was gonna say, like, a lot of times people, like, you know, there are people that like have expectations of their parents or expectations of their kids or expectations of coworkers, but a lot of the times it's your own expectations you put on yourself. Like, I need to be this good, I need to lose this much weight, I need to whatever, and that's the stress that probably outweighs, you know, other people's expectations.
yeah. And again, this goes very well into the next point: intense feelings of stress and performance anxiety.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Doing whatever it is that you feel like you're an imposter in, doing the actual activity or performing is, yeah, you're going to feel that stress, especially when it's like the whole example I used for work. Like, obviously I didn't feel that when I wasn't working, but it's like, okay, as I was driving to work, it's like, I can feel it. I can like feel that ball that's beginning in my stomach, to where it's like, dude, is this the day where I'm going to be caught? Is, you know, I have to actually perform. So
yeah, as it says, as you can probably imagine, dealing with imposter syndrome takes much mental space, inevitably translating into stress. Yeah. Because then, you know, like I said, you know, even with when I have the meetings for the boys, before you were attending them, like I seriously would just like, oh my God, what if they ask me something and I don't know, and then I just look like a freaking horrible parent, and it just, you know, it was like days before, even sometimes weeks before the meeting, like I would just really beat myself up, you know, beat myself up for maybe not knowing my child as well as I should, you know, like, because with, you know, with our middle child, like, I can't sit there and have a conversation with him. He's nonverbal, so I'm kind of just going off of what he's showing me, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can from him just by watching him, you know. Yeah. But it puts a mental strain on you, especially when you feel like you're trying to meet other people's expectations, you know. And the worst part, the shitty part, is that even if, because of imposter syndrome, even if you are maybe showing, you know, the other person, you know, whatever, like what you think you need to show them, it's still not good enough, because that imposter syndrome will tell you, like, no, that's not what they're trying to see, like, or no, they can tell you're totally fake, like, or they can tell you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
They're just being nice. They don't really want to tell you.
Or yeah, like that's another thing. I don't know if it's one of the points that they bring up or not, but you know, with the whole like not accepting like a compliment, you know, like I struggle with that. I can't. Compliments sometimes make me feel so uncomfortable because I don't believe them, you know, and it's just like, that's so not fair for people that, you know, that are going out of their way to say something, you know, positive to you, and you just kind of shut it down, you know?
Not me. If I was it's a good thing I'm not a dog, because my tail would always be wagging.
Wow.
Like if someone was like, Derick, I'd be like, tail would be moving
so
all
gross.
fast.
That's gross. I just got a picture of that.
Well, it's like in Shallow Hell. Remember his little
gross.
nubbin?
Okay. Anyways, we're going to the next one.
Oh, man.
Fear of failure. In essence, fear of failure is a sense of insecurity that you experience whenever you're faced with the possibility of making a mistake, or for various reasons being unable to achieve a goal.
So just being scared of failure, like that's, I mean, if that's one of the signs of imposter, but I think that's just humans, like.
But okay, see, this is where I remember I brought up the whole thing with school.
Mm-hmm.
I was so scared, and I remember talking to my therapist about this, and she was just like, you know, you can either kind of like die trying, or you just freaking don't ever, you know, see the other side of it. And I remember thinking, like, telling myself, like, I'm not going to go to school because, you know, I struggle with certain things. I struggle with, like, reading. I struggle with writing. Like, I struggle. So it's like, I'm not going to do it, you know? So that really, for many years, kept me kind of prisoner to what I could have done. You know, I still have a lot of regrets for not finishing school, like, way back then. but that's something that like that fear of failure really caused me to just completely like go paralyzed. Like I won't, a lot of the times I won't show up just because like I rather look like I didn't even try than to fail.
Yeah.
So
because it's also a fear or anxiety of being embarrassed too. Like because like you said, if you don't try, you can't fail, right?
Yeah.
But if you do, and it's just sort of that embarrassment, like no, I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't pass or I didn't do it. Yeah, that's what I was saying. To me, it feels like that's just people, and like I don't know. I've never met someone that is that super confident to where they're just like, I don't fear it failing at all. Like I know I'm gonna
Right.
do it. Like, and if they do, they're probably lying.
Some people really aren't afraid of making mistakes.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There probably are those people, but no one can be 100% like that confident. I don't know. Like
No,
if
I mean,
you are,
you're
then power
right.
to
Because
you.
if you are that confident, I don't know, then you're not really teachable. Like,
Yeah, like
but I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me making assumptions of people. But yeah, it just, for me, like making a mistake, yeah, that's that.
Scary,
Making a mistake and then someone calling me out on it, like,
right?
that's a trigger for me. Like, I'm just pissed. Like, sucks. I already feel stupid for making a mistake, but now you're freaking, gosh, shit, they noticed it. Like, dang, like.
That's why I just don't tell you anything. Anything.
Wow.
Yeah, can you forget to put salt in the dinner? I'm just like, nope, tastes fine. It's actually oversalted.
Okay, look. My defense, ever since COVID, ever since I got
salt
COVID,
thing.
everything's freaking salty, okay? And it's been a
Damn you,
freaking
COVID.
year. It's been a year. How's that shit still affecting my taste
I like how that's the
buds?
number one. Like, not all of the hundreds of thousands of deaths. No, stupid salt. I can't taste salt, or I taste too much salt now. That's kind of mean.
That is mean.
We'll go ahead and edit that.
Okay,
out.
we'll just take that out. All right, number 6, trying too hard. Or when you consider yourself a fraud and are constantly worried that others will find out, you might try to hide it by keeping yourself as busy as possible. In other words, you strive to become the busy bee at work, the one everyone relies on to get the job done.
So, because you feel like you're not good at something or like you're an imposter, you'll over try?
I think maybe you'll disguise it by like just seem like making yourself look like you're so productive and you're just doing so much and you're.
Yeah, that's how I was kind of thinking it. Like maybe you're over talking. Like you'll take a simple thing that you do and like you'll exaggerate on like, well, first I have to do this and then it's this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, bro, you freaking emailed something. Yeah, but I had to like turn on the computer and then I had to find the right.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you emailed. Like, calm down.
Yeah, I would say that I don't know if I can really.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's hard to.
Well, no, I'm lying. I do kind of see this one because I was avoiding school. So the reason I was avoiding school, my excuses for avoiding school was because there was too much to do here. So I was just like cleaning and I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to like cleaning, and like the way that I need to have the beds made. And I was like really emphasizing on how much I needed to do here at home that that allowed me to avoid
doing the thing
that I was supposed to be doing, what I really should have focused on. So I could see why this is a point because it is true. I remember for a long time, I would hide behind my children's disabilities. So, to me, it's like, why would I ever go back to school if I
have to be here for them.
I have to take care of my kids for the rest of their life.
I'm not going to need a degree for that.
I'm not going to, so what's the point,
Yeah, that's true.
And I would hide behind that. And I still find myself sometimes like, well, why? Like, why am I going to pursue this if, like, I'm more likely going to have to take care of, my kids for the rest of their lives? Like, so, I don't know. To me, I think it is something that
makes sense.
That makes sense, because I would, like I said, I would use that a lot. And I would just, I don't know, like, burn myself out at home just so, like, I could avoid that situation, So, yeah. Sorry, I freaking lost my points here. We were on what, number 6?
Yeah.
Okay, so number 7, doing the bare minimum. So this is the opposite. This is on the opposite side of the spectrum. There are those who, because of feeling like imposters, choose to want to run away from the responsibilities. Yeah, I for sure with school. Just like I would start a test or start an assignment, and then it's just like, this is just too much, you know?
Yeah, like if you, and like we said with the day-to-day stuff, or being like a parent too, like if you feel like I'm not a good parent, I shouldn't even be a dad or whatever, like you might leave, you might walk out, and you know, or whatever, even if it's a friendship, like I'm not a good friend, so therefore I'm just gonna like ghost this person. It's I can understand that.
Yeah, and I think honestly, like that's a good point, bringing up like the friendships thing. I just talked to my best friend today, and she moved out of state, so like, you know,
I thought I was your best friend.
You're my other best friend. And we're talking about that. We're talking about friendships, and you know how, you know, the older you get, like how hard it is to grow friendships, you know, grow like relationships, because
Amen.
it's, you know, it's like at 1 year older, and there's so many things going on, and you know, we all have different responsibilities, kids and work and all that. So we're talking about that, and I think, you know, one thing that I realize is that in this part of my life, when it comes to friendships, like it's very hard for me to be vulnerable or open, because I don't want to be, and this is going to sound like selfish, but I don't want to be disappointed, you know, because I've lost friendships before. So now I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to put myself out there so much that I'm setting myself up for disappointment, you know? So I do just do just enough in a friendship. I'm working on that. I really am. But I think that's one of the areas where I do give the bare minimum. 1, because I'm afraid to be completely vulnerable and be myself. And 2, because in this is where the imposter syndrome comes in. Is like people are, I'm afraid that people are gonna, who they find out who I really am isn't really who they thought Jessica was. You know?
Yeah.
Did that make sense? Like,
yeah, the whole expectations thing.
Yeah.
Too.
You know, so it's like, I feel like people see me a certain way, but that's not who I really am. You know? So that's where, and I think I'm a lot more guarded now in my friendships. And that's, I know it's not good. Like, it's not healthy, but again, I think it's just because I'm afraid of people discovering who I really am, you know? Or again, like where people do give me a compliment, I don't believe it, you know? Yeah. So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that really went along with this point, but.
No, I did.
But yeah, so I think a lot of the things that I've given the bare minimum is because I haven't really believed in myself, and I haven't given myself the opportunity to grow, you know? So.
It also goes with the whole fear of failing. Like if I just kind of half-ass it, then I can just say like, well, if I didn't do good or people weren't impressed, it's like, well, because I really didn't give it my all. If I would have given it my all, I'm sure they would be impressed. But
it was like the whole, like when I'm trying to open a jar and then I give it to you and then you open it and I'm like, well, I loosened it.
Well, I loosened it for you.
I loosened it for you, you know? So it's like, I already kind of did, you know, at least some of it for you, but that probably doesn't even go with that, but I just thought of that. So number 8, you feel overwhelmed by negative self-talk. At its core, imposter syndrome is founded on a set of beliefs you hold about yourself. These beliefs shape your perspective in the sense that you consider yourself unworthy of your achievement, doubt your abilities, and reject the appreciation you receive for a job well done. Kind of what we were talking about, right?
Yeah, I think like this completely speaks to like not even, I don't think like imposter syndrome, the other one we did, people pleasing, whatever it is that you feel that you are, or that you know you think you are, or whatever. And then not to get too much into it, because I'm sure it'll be an episode down the road. But like the whole opening your third eye and really reflecting and seeing yourself, like there's a thing called ego death. You need to kill the ego, because the ego feeds on your thoughts of who you think you are, and it literally needs those thoughts to continue to live. It's those thoughts, usually negative thoughts, doesn't necessarily need to be negative thoughts, it could be positive thoughts, but those thoughts of, well, I'm this way, or I need to, I'm the funny person, or I need to drink to have fun, or I'm this way, or I'm that way. It's like air for the ego. So
it lives off of false beliefs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you remove that, all that negative talk, because I can definitely relate. Mm-hmm. I'm supposed to be the good talker, right? I can definitely relate to that because I'm in my head a lot, and I'm in my head about not being good enough, not being thin enough, not being strong enough, not being smart enough, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm in my head a lot, so I can relate to that. And then it gets tiring. It's not only stressful, but it's just tiring because it's just like, can't I have some confidence? Like, come on, like, let's go.
And it leads to so much like discouragement, you're just completely discouraged and you feel defeated at the end of the day, and you're just like,
or at the beginning, like you didn't even start your task. You're just like, dude.
It's like, these are some of the examples. I don't deserve to be here. They probably made a mistake when they hired me. I'm not good at anything. I'm not good, smart, or competent enough. Others are better, smarter, more competent than me. Others will realize that I don't belong here. What gives me the right to be here? I'm not entitled to ask for. I don't deserve a raise. I'm not entitled to ask for. Like, that's kind of a big one for me. Even like with, back when I was in school before, when I was in high school, I remember just feeling like I couldn't, like, if I couldn't understand something, one of the things that I shared in the story Instagram was like, English wasn't my first language, it was Spanish. So there was a lot of things that I still struggle with, like translation. So I was always embarrassed to ask, because it's like they would say something, I'm like, wait, what does that mean? I don't get it. And for some reason, I just convinced myself, one, I wasn't worthy enough for like to receive an answer, which is like, so now that I think about it, I'm just like, whoa, like where is that?
Deep. Like
that's like deep, like it was like, I was just, my question was going to be a waste of time.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like I got to answer this girl, but it was something that I struggled with, feeling like, that I was worthy enough to not only like ask a question, but to receive an answer. And I really robbed myself of a lot of learning opportunities because just of how I saw myself. So now, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think with the whole just talking down to yourself, whatever. Like, I think everyone needs what's the lady from The Help? Everyone needs that in the morning. Like, you is kind, you is smart. Like, they need her to come tell me that.
It's so funny that you brought that up, because this morning I was telling Maya that. I was literally grabbed her.
So in the case you guys don't know, Maya's our dog. Not one of our children, our dog.
I was like, I grabbed her face and I was telling her that,
Beautiful.
Because she's so beautiful. Oh, and I was like thinking about that. I was like, man, what if, no, seriously, like, what if someone did that to you every morning and just reminded you of how like fucking awesome you are? You know
who could do it is you. Like, even if you seem like a crazy person in the mirror, and just like, funny. You are confident, you can do this.
I spoke to this life coach a few weeks ago, and we were just kind of having a meeting or whatever. And she was like, one of the things that you should practice every morning is like speaking to yourself in the mirror. And, giving yourself some, like, just a little pep talk, some motivation, some words of affirmation. And I was like, fuck no. Like,
right? It would just seem like
look at yourself in the mirror and, like, say some, like, nice words to yourself. Like, it's so foreign to me, you know? I don't know why that's something I struggle with so much, even with words of affirmation. Like, it's something really that I struggle with, and it's like, it's because of the imposter syndrome, now, like, I'm kind of putting all the dots together, like, oh, it's because I don't fucking believe it. It's right. Because, like, I'm telling myself that, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, I don't believe it, and And it's so, again, like we tell you guys, like we're not here sharing because we've got answers. We're here sharing because these are the things that we struggle with. These are the things that we want to share. And hopefully, as we are bringing light to you guys on things that maybe you are struggling with, like it's bringing light to us because we're just like, oh shoot, we got some things that we need to work on. So
it'd be cool if like your reflection answered you, but then it would suck because then you're crazy. And then you're like
crazy on your own fucking
drugs. You got it, and it's like thanks. What? Oh, huh? Wait, I gotta take my pill.
Oh my gosh. So anyways, number 9. Are we done with that point?
Yeah, so just don't stop talking negative to yourself.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Number 9, attributing success to external factors.
Of course. Yeah, like it wasn't me. I'm not good enough. I ain't smart enough. I was only able to do that because of so-and-so or because of this or because it was just like a perfect coincidence that all that thing came together.
Exactly. So I was talking to a friend and she's gone through some pretty hard things and I get this. We might bring up a lot of things in regards to like Christianity just because it's like something we really relate to and we understand. It's our background. But she said something, she was like, I just want to thank God, like God has done all this for me. And I stopped her and I said, look, I understand that you want to give recognition to something that you believe in. I understand that. I said, but you have also taken part in this. You have done some very hard things and you have come out on, in spite of what's happened in your life, you are doing it. You are taking the hard steps, and it's not that I don't want, I'm not saying to not recognize that God had some part in this, if that's what you believe in, but also know that this is also you.
Yeah,
like,
give yourself some
credit. And we were just talking about that right before recording with your friend's podcast, right?
Yeah, I was going to bring it up after.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, because I was listening to a friend of mine back from high school. He has his podcast. I believe it's called The Kinship Collective. Mark, hopefully that is that's the right title of your podcast. Kudos to you if you are listening to this, but what caught my eye on his episode that just came out was Jesus is not here to save you, or Jesus is not coming to save you, which is like coming from like a faith Christian based podcast. It was like, oh, that's a title that kind of jumps out, so I gave it a listen, and he's talking about that where so many people like himself grew up in a family that was just very much faith-based, and everything is the doing of God, where like whatever, if you got a good grade or if you succeeded and got a job from an interview, you passed an interview, whatever, it was all like just pray on it and God's gonna give it to you.
Glory to God.
Yeah, glory to God, only to God, everything for God. And it's like you're taught, you're almost, I hate to say the word, you're brainwashed from a young age, like it's never you. As soon as you begin to say like, good job, Derick, or like, you did it, you were strong enough, you were smart enough, you passed that test, it's like you're being selfish, and that is sin. So you need to always give praise to God. And it's like, no, like you work with whatever God you believe in. You're working together to accomplish things, to be the most special, most important being that you can be. That's what that whole episode was.
And I've always kind of believed that there's opportunities that come up, and I'm in a very weird place when it comes to the whole God thing, right? But I do feel that whatever, if you believe it's God or if it's like an energy source, whatever, there's opportunities that are presented to you. But in order for those things to like take place, or those opportunities to grow, are going to take action from your part. You need to be proactive with those opportunities, right? So that's what I feel like. We need to recognize the hard work that we've put in. We need to stop and say, hey, yes, maybe, it's kind of like someone gives you $1,000, right? And then like, I'm going to invest this, so you do your research and you find the right place to place your money in and invest it. And now you've turned that into 10,000. So it's like, yes, obviously that person, they gave you 1,000, you're grateful for that. But they didn't turn it into 10,000. You did that, right? So
I mean, if it says he gives us free will, so every day we have the choice to either do something productive or be a lazy ass and do nothing. Yeah. So when we do something productive, why can't we say, good job on making the correct choice how to live your life?
So I think a reason why probably a lot of people, especially believers, Christian believers, might struggle with imposter syndrome and not even know it. It's because, like you said, religion can take your power from you.
It cuts your power. It really does.
So now you're depending on an outside source. So even if you do something that is amazing and awesome, oh, it wasn't me. It was, glory to God. I understand that. I get it. But it's also, I think it's false humility, to be honest with you. I think sometimes people use that as just like, oh, I know, but it's just God. Like, it's like, no, stop it. It's okay to be humble, but also I think recognizing the hard work that you've put in and the the courage and strength that it's taken to be where you are right now. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it does. I think a lot of it, our culture, our upbringing, religion, all that plays a lot into why we think the way that we think and we are the way that we are. Because we are taught to silence and be silent, don't say anything. It's not about you. Don't be bringing attention to yourself.
Because that's a sin. And not to steal his words, because he even says that in that episode where that kind of teaching, and he didn't say this specifically, but I feel like just with Christian churches is that they make you very codependent. And you're not, they disguise it with you're dependent on God, which is like, okay, you could be dependent on God, but then it turns into you're dependent on the church. You're dependent on your pastor. Well, they say
you have to submit.
Yeah, you're dependent on your pastor to lead you. You're dependent on the church. And it's like, you're not. Like, you're not, we're not going to go down this road, but to follow something that's making you codependent is probably not the right thing. You should be firm, you should stand strong because you were made strong. So but that's I don't know how we started going down that road.
Well, like I said, and that's why sometimes I want to explain things and try to not say it in any way where I'm insulting anyone else. But this is what I really think.
This is what our really beliefs. Feel. Again, exactly. No one's ever going to agree on everything.
And I think coming from a church that very much told you and taught you that you needed to have their approval before you went and did anything, it causes a lot of it brings up a lot of opportunities for you to deal with that imposter syndrome, because now you question everything that you do.
Exactly.
And you need that external validation to say like, oh no, yeah, you're right, you should do that. And it's like, we shouldn't, no one should tell you what you can and can't do, All right, so number 10, this is the last one, guys. Inability to accept constructive feedback. Let's get something straight. No one can do everything right from the first try. Think about the time when you were little. You didn't know how to do many things like writing or counting. You didn't magically wake up knowing how to do these things one day. You learned them with the help of adults who showed you how to do them and corrected you until you finally mastered the skills. Mm-hmm. Yes, I struggle with this big time.
Constructive criticism.
See, that's the thing. Like, I can handle someone telling me, like, I can't handle constructive criticism and someone like telling me like, maybe like, hey, maybe you should try doing it like this or
sure
whatever.
About that? You sure about that?
Wow. But what I struggle with, okay, here's the thing. I guess I need to like reword that. I appreciate someone telling me that, but I don't like to look dumb.
Yeah. Okay.
But I do appreciate someone
it's like,
helping me.
Tell me, but not in front of anyone and not in a way where I feel threatened.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way communicate it to me without communicating to me, okay?
And I think
just like
one of the reasons I think I struggle with that is because people always come to me for like help or, you know. So I'm always kind of like the savior in all my like friendships and
whoa, you went big then.
I know, but I'm not saying that's like I know that sounded totally like
you should start calling me savior.
Arrogant, but no, like
yeah, no, I'm sorry.
I'm always I know. Like, see that right there, that constructive little like comment. Okay, triggered the shit out of me right now. No,
you are getting stabbed after this episode.
No, but I'm just saying, like, okay, so I'm always kind of like the one that my friends come to, and I say that because, and I said the whole savior thing because that's something that I'm working on because I need help. Like, I need help myself. So I'm learning to now come to my friends and say like, hey, yo girl, she's pretty jacked up today. So I need you to help me, you know? So, but, and recognizing that I've been playing that savior role was like something that is part of my healing cause I'm like, I need to stop because I'm not, you know.
It's a lot of expectation on you too. Like,
a lot of expectation.
I'm going to come to you with my problems and you're going to give me the right answer. So
exactly. So, so when someone does tell me something, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to accept it, and or apply it or embrace it because I have always felt like I've always been the one that people go to. So constructive criticism makes me feel like I should already know that. You know, like I should know that. Like, man, how did I do that, or how did I miss that? That makes me like really get down on myself because I feel like I should know better, you know, and it is because of people's expectations or the expectations I've placed on myself that I feel people have of me. Yeah. You know, so, so I think I'm more and more I want to be teachable and I want to be able to handle someone, you know, either seeing things differently than me or disagreeing with me, because that's how we learn and that's how we grow, you know?
I think, and we've talked about this, like we're in a season right now where we are, because our eyes were so shut tight and blinded to being around or allowing ourselves to be around those that thought differently from us. And we're in a season right now where we're just like seeking out those that disagree with us or seeking out those that may look at things a different way or, you know, just believe something different. And I think everyone, you know, like you should be like that should be everyone's season. You know, if you really just bubble yourself into being around those that see the whole world like you do, you're never going to grow. You're never going to learn. And, you know, when you're around someone that may see something different, they're going to give you, maybe it's not, I guess it's something different than constructive criticism, but they may say like, well, why do you think that? Or why do you look at it like that?
Someone that challenges
you. And that's in a way kind of like constructive criticism because you might take it in that kind of way where it's just like it's kind of triggering, like you said, but in the end, it'll literally be the most beneficial thing that can happen to help you to grow. So
because we, you know, it's especially like I said, being raised as a Christian from a very young age, you were always taught to be with like-minded individuals, and if you did meet someone that was different than you, then your job was to now transform them. Yeah, exactly. You know, so it becomes a project, and now that person just isn't someone that you're having a respectful conversation. Now your job is to change them.
That goes into that whole area where it's just like, I love to like find people that think differently so that I can teach them to think like me the right way. Right. No. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just accept them and let them do what they're doing as long as they're not hurting anyone. But, you know, the idea isn't to find, you know, people that think differently and change their minds. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so I think more and more, going back to the whole imposter syndrome, a lot of the reasons why, some of us might struggle with that is just because of our upbringing. Like I said, with the whole, for me, it was being raised in a Christian home, or being raised in a Hispanic, home where you were. I'm not saying that all Hispanics are like this, but a lot of them are. You weren't really you weren't really raised to like believe in yourself,
Yeah.
It was
No, it's most Hispanics. Most Hispanic families.
yeah,
Are,
like I don't know if it's just this like unspoken thing where you just
it's almost like you're in competition, even with like your
yes.
parents too, and like don't correct me. I'm your dad, or don't make me look dumb. Like
Yeah.
like I don't know. You were. It's hard. Yeah.
It's a culture thing. I don't
Yeah.
really know, but even if you're non-Hispanic and you still found yourself in a home like that,
It can
that's
cause
it can really cause a lot of just self-doubt and a lot of comparison, and self-sabotaging behavior, where I know there's been a lot of times where I know I could have done more. I could have, gone to school and by now graduated and done something different. But I just really feel like I was never given. I believe my mom did the best that she could with what she had. Looking at the way she was raised, I understand now. Like now, I look at it and I'm like, okay, that I get why I didn't receive a lot of that. Those confident building like type of conversations or opportunities with her, but I do feel like in a way I'm like I didn't really receive a lot of that, so
yeah.
now I have to kind of reparent myself.
Hmm.
And it's hard, it's hard. And I think a lot of the times, now that we have some language to it, and I can, I can express what I'm actually feeling and have a name to it, I'm able to kind of tackle that and approach it in a different way now, where I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do. These are the things that I can, you know, um, take action in. But yeah, so I think a lot of our upbringing and our environment, honestly, too, because we're so exposed to, wow, well, they're doing that,
Hmm.
and they're doing this, and and we get caught up in comparison.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's a good thing, like you said, that another reason why we agree that everyone needs therapy. Like
yeah,
you need, because unless you do the research on your own, which I'm not saying you can't, you kind of need someone to tell you, like, there's a name for what you're feeling. It's called this. Other
yeah,
people experience this. Heck, I'll even tell you how to address it and how to, not fix it, but how to either
how to
control
approach
it,
it,
how to
yeah,
approach it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's because like you said, how we're raised. I think how you're raised, obviously the environment you're raised in, who raises you, will determine who you are. It,
yeah,
it like we were
it
talking
molds
about. It
us,
pretty much it creates that ego, because
yeah,
that ego ends like, well, I saw this growing up and I heard this and this is who I am and this is what I do and this is how I respond in certain situations. That is all created by your upbringing and what you saw. So unfortunately, there's a lot of us that either because it was done in a malicious way or it was done like you said, parents just they do the best they can with what they have. You are a certain way, and it's up to you as an adult to either continue down that path and say, well,
right,
that's just how I am, or you know what, I really don't like that about myself. Let me see what I can do to fix this, to make myself better, and to definitely make sure that I don't, if you have kids, pass that on to them. So, it's a matter of, again, self help. And a lot of the self help will be, even though it's self help is supposed to be you doing it, it requires you reaching out to those that know about it. So yeah, whatever it is you may be feeling, if it's imposter syndrome or people pleasing or whatever, don't just don't listen to this podcast. Go seek someone that is smarter than us for sure. But definitely, seek it out to address it and figure out what it is. So.
Yeah, and I think we need to stop living with the stigma of just identifying what it is that you're struggling with. People live their whole lives and it's just like, well, I don't know what that is. Yeah, that's I've always struggled with that, but
it's who I am.
Yeah,
that's just who I am.
But the reason why there's a name for it is because, one, you're not the only person. So you're not a weirdo. You're not a weirdo that struggles with this. And two, it's because there's been a name to it because people have come forward and, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. And we've been able to categorize it. But it doesn't mean that you have to identify with it like where now that's just what you are.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
it's not a title you give yourself for the rest of your life.
Exactly. So... yeah, I just think that, again, the reason for us doing this podcast is because we get to share what we're learning and how we are either struggling with it or how we're working through it or how we can apply it in our life, so.
To bring you guys information that maybe you had or maybe you didn't or maybe you knew about, but you looked at it one way and you see it our way and it kind of opened up, some things. But whatever, that's the reason why it's the title. It's something like therapy. It's something just like hearing other people's views on things and then seeing if it does something within you. So, yeah. But hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I definitely did. And again, if any of those things kind of hit home, do some research, man. Use that Google, figure it out, like see what's going on there. But yeah, we'll hopefully again. I feel like it's a recorded thing here. Sorry we didn't get a would you rather question out, but we will get one out this week coming up, so look out for that and give us your answers to those, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
All right, you guys have a great, beautiful day.
Bye.